This morning's reading comes from Tech Agnostic by Greg Epstein. While to be human is to experience the pain of fear, anger, and sadness, it is ironically our efforts to deaden such experiences that subtract from our capacity for joy and disconnect us from our ability to love. He goes on to say, I am saying love makes human life worthwhile, no matter what. I'm saying we make technology so that people who are alive now and the generations to come can experience love, which requires justice, because there is no meaningful or sustainable love without a commitment to justice. And even though we can't ever achieve perfection in any of this, and we're currently a long way from excellence as well, rather than putting this notion into the far future, let's think 7 generations down the road, as the ancient indigenous principle suggests. Let's strive to create technology that ennobles us by increasing love and justice in this world, and in a future we might see or envision. When we focus our energy on that, we'll make different, better, technological and moral choices than we find ourselves making right now. Because so much of what we are currently doing is meant to drown out our belief in our own meaninglessness, and thus to drown the pain that belief causes. When we don't feel loved or loving in this life, then it's natural and rational to want a longer life, in the hope of feeling differently someday. It's understandable to want a radically easier life, even at the expense of others, to ease the pain of a struggle unredeemed by human interconnection and shared purpose.
It's funny to get up and talk about a sermon today where I'm going to talk a little bit anti-phones. If I didn't have my phone, I wouldn't be here because the time changed, and I relied on my phone to do the work for me of resetting things. As we woke up this morning with an extra hour of light, we sprung forward today, y'all, which means if you're anything like me, you're probably still a little bit confused about what time it is right now. And I think that spring forward is a funny term for a Sunday that starts with us, most of us at least, groggy and feeling mildly betrayed by our alarm clocks. But regardless, the season of spring does something to our spirits as we move into this season of renewal. But to truly spring forward, to lean into what's ahead, requires something of us. It requires that we actually show up, that we be here, present in this moment, in this season of life. And this particular moment, this particular spring, is asking a lot of us. We are 1 week into a new war, and I know that many of you came in this morning carrying that weight, having that on your mind. Some of us are angry, some of us are grieving, some of us checked our phone in the parking lot before we walked in just to see if anything had changed. And some of us are so exhausted by the news that we've stopped checking it at all. And we may feel, sometimes at least, a little bit guilty about that. And that guilt is actually where I want to start, because I think it tells us something important about where we are right now as a people, as a congregation, as a culture that is genuinely trying to live its values in a world that makes that very, very hard. Which leads me to what I really am focused on this morning, what I really want to talk about, which is distraction. And not distraction as a character flaw or as a harmless little habit, but as a spiritual condition, one that all of us are navigating. And I also want to talk about what it means to come back, not to escape from the world, but to actually be in it, present enough to love it, and grounded enough to act. So this morning, just a moment ago in our story, For All Ages, we met the couch potato. A potato who had everything it needed to live fully and who still couldn't quite bring itself to get up. And as silly as the story is, I think there's something very tender and very real about that potato. That pull towards comfort, towards staying put, towards watching life from a safe distance through a screen while the world just kind of happens. I think a lot of us spend time as that potato right now. And I want to say, with real compassion and empathy, that I get it. Me too. I really do. Because here's what I think is actually happening when we can't get up, when we can't put the phone down. Greg Epstein, who our reading came from, he's the humanist chaplain at both Harvard and MIT. And he named this in our reading this morning when he said, while to be human is to experience the pain of fear, anger, and sadness, it is ironically our efforts to deaden such experiences that subtract from our capacity for joy and disconnect us from our ability to love. He described our moves towards distraction as, quoting him here, our efforts to deaden. And that phrase actually stopped me when I first read it. Because I think that's what so much of our scrolling actually is. It's not really staying informed or connected, it can be more about numbing. Finding a way to be somewhere else when being here is pretty hard, or when the news is too heavy, or when the grief is too close, when we don't know what to do with what we feel, so we just keep scrolling, hoping the next thing will somehow resolve it. And I think the painful irony of what he's naming there, that the very thing we reach for to escape the pain is the thing that takes us further from what could actually heal us, which I believe is presence and each other. We are more connected than ever, and often we can be lonelier than ever. We know more about what's happening around the world than any generation before us, and we feel more helpless than ever to do anything about it. We are saturated with information, but starved for meaning. When working on this topic for this morning, I found myself thinking about experiences I've had even walking from my car into my house. Like, I'll find myself standing in my own backyard and I'll realize that I'm not actually even there. Somehow I'm already checking my phone from the time that I unplugged it from the car, got my stuff out, before I even make it in the house. Now I'm suddenly thinking about something that someone said online that I probably didn't even need to see. Somehow I've gotten lost. And we do this everywhere. Have you ever noticed what happens in elevators? Like, the doors closed, and in the few seconds between floors, it's sometimes too much for us to bear, and our phones are out of our pockets, and we've left the present. And my office at work, I swear, everyone is just on their phones for like the 30 seconds between floors. And when this happens to me, and when I come to, now I can feel it in my body. I'm not in my life. I'm in a space that feels urgent, but also feels ungrounded. Now, there's another book called Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. And in his book, he puts it plainly. He says technology should serve our values, not shape them. Now, that sounds simple, and yet we pick up our phones without thinking. We scroll when we're tired, when we're anxious, when we're bored, when we're trying to avoid doing the dishes, when we're standing in the kitchen holding a spoon and having no idea why we came in that room in the first place. I've even found myself, this is not a joke, I have even found myself checking the weather app while I'm standing outside in the weather. And it's not just social media, right? It's also our inbox, our news feed, the breaking news banner, the group text, 1,000 portals to somewhere else, 1,000 quiet invitations to disappear. This past year, I've started spending some real time asking myself, what kind of person is this making me into? Am I living into my alignment, in alignment with what I say and what that I believe, or am I living in reaction to what an algorithm thinks I'll click on next? It's an existential question, and I'm sorry to introduce it if you're not already thinking about it. I will also say that talking about distraction and presence is easy when the stakes feel manageable. It's a little harder when we're in times such as these. And naming that fear in this moment, it's not worth avoiding. In moments like these, in times like these, a phrase I'm very tired of saying, in times like these. The call to put down your phone can start to sound like a call to look away, right? And I want to be clear. I don't think we can afford to totally look away from what's happening in the world. Looking away has never sat right with me, and I suspect most of you. And if we're committed to our Unitarian Universalist values of justice, of interdependence, of love, this makes a lot of sense. But these platforms are built to make consumption feel like participation. And that's not an accident. It's a business model. And it works on all of us. We scroll and we click and consume more than our spirits can hold, not because we don't care, but because we're afraid that if we stop watching, if we stop paying attention, that somehow we're failing. But what that fear actually does, if we're not careful, is convince us that being frozen is the same thing as being ready, and that reactivity is the same thing as responsibility, and we end up exhausted, not mobilized. The real risk here is not our presence, it's our absence. Now, I do want to hold this truth alongside a few others. There's no talking about this subject without addressing the nuances. Sometimes distraction is a method of survival. Sometimes it's the buffer we need when the grief is too loud, the news is too close, the pain is too fresh. Sometimes it's how we catch our breath so that we can go back in. There's no shame in needing rest. The work requires us to rest. And digital life is not only a distraction. The internet has helped movements grow and protests form. It has allowed those who are isolated by location, identity, or ability find each other. It allows people to access community in infinite ways. There is real beauty and real power in these tools. But that power runs through us, which means that it depends on us being here. Coming back to your body, to your breath, your actual life, that is not giving up. That is, in fact, the only way you will ever have anything left to give. You cannot love what you cannot see. You cannot act for a world you are never fully in. Going back to Greg Epstein, he writes that love requires justice. I believe that completely. And I believe this too. Justice requires people who are whole enough to show up for it, people who are still connected to what they love and why it matters. The way we spend our attention is the way we spend our lives. So, when it comes to our devices, every scroll is a small act of faith. Faith that maybe this next thing will finally tell us what to do, how to feel, how to fix it. But y'all, that faith is being exploited. These systems are not designed to help us live well. They are designed to keep us engaged, and there is a profound difference between engagement and aliveness. Back to digital minimalism, Newport asks, is this tool serving my values or quietly reshaping them without my consent? And Epstein asks something even deeper. Are we making choices that increase love and justice in the world, or are we drowning out our own belief in our meaningfulness? Because I think that what sustained, unbroken exposure to news and social media, to the feed, that's what it can do to us over time. It doesn't just make us sad, it makes us feel small, like nothing we do matters, like the world is too broken to bother with, and then we scroll some more because the alternative, actually feeling the weight of it and deciding to do something anyway, that can be terrifying. But that's a lie. A comfortable, very convincing lie, but a lie. So what do we actually do? I am not going to tell you to quit the internet or to get rid of your smartphone, even though I've been tempted, but I keep getting talked out of it. It's not actually helpful to my life. But I'm going to tell you the opposite, actually. I'm going to tell you to keep paying attention, The world does need your attention. It needs you engaged, informed, ready to act. But there are some practical things I could also offer, not as rules, but as invitations. Be intentional about when you consume the news, not just whether or not you do. Perhaps give yourself a window. Maybe it's 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening, not because the world stops mattering, but because you need the other hours to actually be someone who can actually respond to what you've learned. A person who has slept and eaten and breathed and been in a body. I would also say, what if you found one or two actions, not all the actions? The paralysis of caring about everything is real, and the people who design these platforms know that. Overwhelm keeps us passive. Pick one issue, two issues, an organization, a neighborhood, a relationship. Go deep rather than wide. You will do more good, and you will feel less hopeless. And then, and this is the part I most want you to hear, come back. Come back to your body. Come back to the actual world. Walk outside. Talk to a neighbor. Cook something. Show up for someone or yourself in a way that doesn't require Wi-Fi. Let your presence be an act of resistance against everything that wants you anxious and reactive and alone. Thich Nhat Hanh offered a simple practice for exactly this kind of moment. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. That's not spiritual bypassing, that's not being naive. It's an act of resistance against everything that wants you feeling small. Being here, being really here is a radical act. Presence is not passivity. Presence is the ground from which everything grows. We are a non-creedal people. We don't all believe the same thing, and we're not supposed to. But most of us share a sense of the sacred, and we share that the sacred, however we understand it, is not found by escaping the world, but it's found by loving it with our whole selves. Not just our opinions and our outrage, but our bodies, our relationships, our time. The sacred lives in real encounter, in the rough and holy friction of actually being together. And if the body is good, and if your presence is holy, then the work of being present is not optional. It is the work. It's the spiritual practice our moment is asking of us. So our charge is this. Wake up and notice the light. Just like our friend, the couch potato, we make our way to the window. Let your mind wander. Let your heart ache. Let yourself be bored every once in a while. Call a friend, take a walk, share a meal, be in a body in a world full of other bodies. And if you find yourself, when you find yourself, reaching for your phone out of habit, it might be worth pausing to ask, is this where I actually want to be right now? The answer will come to you quickly. Sometimes the news is something you genuinely need to see and act on. Sometimes the group chat is real connection. Just be intentional. Just honest and intentional. So we sprung forward this morning. We have more light. There is a season of growth ahead of us even now, even in this heavy and hard and holy time. But even in that time, the world is still here, and so are you. So come back to it. Let it hold you. Let it change you. May it be so.